school here. I'm gonna correct you a little bit. It was actually a middle school when I went to school here. I graduated from Reno, but I grew up here, and I went to the North Side Elementary School. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit. My subject is going to be knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. When I was asked to come, I asked Sergeant John to pick the subject, but he allowed me to pick the subject, and I was trying to think about what could I say to a group of, what are y'all, 7th graders? Yes, 7th graders? Well, knowledge is power can be applied to anything that you do, especially when it comes to your school work. But this knowledge and power is going to be in reference to when you come in contact, and y'all excuse me, I'm so sorry for this thing being home. But I would ask that y'all would repeat this with me. If you learn nothing else today, you will learn 3 words. First word is knowledge. Say knowledge. Knowledge is power. Power. Say it again. Knowledge is power. A little faster. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Again, I am Don Otis, retired Shreveport police, but we're going to talk about knowledge is power. And I call this the do's and don'ts. Because your average age is what? Your age? 12? Anybody here older than 12? 14, 15? 15? Anybody here 15? No 15-year-olds? 14-year-olds? Let me see 14. 15 on that miss. 14. Okay, 14 years old. 14 years old. 14 years old. I ask that y'all would really pay attention. The last group that was in here, they really had some good questions to ask because they paid attention. And this is no indictment on anybody. We're not trying to call anybody out. But you may have a question in the end. When I grew up here on the Cooper Road wasn't even in the city limits. And what I'm saying is we were actually considered in the country. There were no Shreveport police officers up here. Caddo Sheriff's Department was the law enforcement that was responsible for law and order. 4 or 5 lane Cooper Road, well, I say Cooper Road, y'all call it MLK now. It was actually a dirt road. That would be before your time, long time ago, but now they've turned it into a highway that you can do 50, 60 miles an hour. But I ask that you would really pay attention. This could be helpful not only when dealing with law enforcement officers, this can be applied in your day-to-day activity. And if something is on the screen and you really can't see it, just ask me to move to the side and I'll kind of move by it. But I want you to pay attention. In the end, if you have questions, please ask. The last group, again, they were very attentive and they had a lot of questions to ask about things that they didn't understand. But again, we're going to talk about knowledge is power. But to understand what knowledge is, we have to define the word knowledge. So knowledge is going to be information and skills that you're going to gain based on experience and education. You have to have an understanding of a subject. And if you don't understand what's being said or taught, even in your classroom setting, if you don't have an understanding and you do not ask questions, then how are you going to find the solution to the problem? I like the eagle and the lion. The eagle is a bird, and I think of the eagle as being a real powerful bird. Has a wingspan of 6 feet. Wingspan of 6 feet. Lions are considered the king of the jungle. So I put that picture of a lion because the lion has strength and authority, and that's where your power comes in. It is the ability to do something or act in a particular way, having power. And if you know that knowledge is power, if you have an understanding of the subject, you could have the ability to control the outcome of the situation. Y'all understand what I'm saying? If you understand what the subject is, and that's when you're doing your schoolwork. If you don't understand what the teachers are saying, how can you have the ability to control what the outcome is? But you can apply that in your day-to-day life. But today we're talking about interacting with law enforcement, and the people perish because of their lack of knowledge. We use the word ignorance, but ignorance sounds like a real dirty word, but all ignorance means is you really don't understand. If I start talking to you in French or Spanish and you don't speak Spanish, I can tell you that you're looking good, and I'm going to make sure you have a good looking day, and I want to give you a $100 bill. But if you don't understand what I'm saying because you don't speak my language, that's Greek to you. That's Greek to you. So we don't want you to be destroyed because of your lack of knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Say it one more time for me.
Knowledge is power.
And if you learn nothing else today, you will learn that knowledge is power. You see that guy right there? Police is carrying him away. He's on his way to jail. Now why do you think he's smiling like that?
You don't care?
Well, it's not that he really don't care. I told you earlier, knowledge is power. This guy going to jail, he might be an attorney. If he's an attorney, he realized that I shouldn't be out here acting a fool with the police because I have the upper hand. Anytime you come in contact with a law enforcement officer, whether you want to believe it or not, you have the upper hand. But you determine what level the situation is taken to. You start out both on the same level. And I'm going to try to talk to you what you can understand. If you act a fool, then you just took it to the next level. The officer is here. He must take it a step higher than you take it. So this guy is cool and calm because he knows that he has this situation under control. And I say, when you're stopped by a law enforcement officer, you have to be polite and respectable, be respectful, and stay calm. And it's, a lot of times it's hard to do that. Because what do we want to do? We want to say to the law enforcement officer, what are you stopping me for? Well, when you say that to him, you were both on the same level. You just took it up to the next level because you elevated your voice. You're not going to win the situation, so he has to take it to the next level. He's going to remain cool and calm because when it's all over, you know what he's going to do? He's going to, if he's not a lawyer, he's going to contact his attorney and say that these officers arrested me falsely. And I remained cool and calm, and I'm sure we all have the phones and the video cameras. The situation, if it gets out of hand and he remains like that, he has the upper hand. How many times have you seen a situation like that? A lot of times. And we always want to look at the officers as being the bad guys. But what's this? You don't know what that guy just did. Let's say that guy, he just shot 3 people. And when the police officers caught up with him, he started fighting with them. Would you say they're justified to do what they're doing? Would you say they're okay to do what they're doing to him? He just shot 3 people. You said no? Who said no? One person with a hand up. Give me one person with a hand up that says no. He just shot 3 people. Okay, listen to me. Let's say he just shot 3 people, and these are 3 people that were doing absolutely nothing. I'm talking about the guy on the ground. So the officers, you look at them, and it appears that they're being overly aggressive, but I just told you, we all start out on the same level. If you take it to the next level, the officer has to go one step a little higher. Now, this guy right here, they're escorting him away. It appears that he's bleeding, but what he will want to do later, he would want to file a complaint. If you are rightful in your duties, you have the right, if you feel like things are not going the way they ought to, but you have to always be right in what you do. If you're wrong in what you do, you can't complain. There's always an avenue where you can file a complaint. How many of you knew or know have the right to file a complaint and something will actually be done to that officer. Did anybody know that? Okay, I see some of them shaking. Well, that's good because you're protected by law. You have certain rights. And me being in law enforcement, I don't have a right to just come and put handcuffs on you and walk you away if you're doing absolutely nothing wrong. You have to be doing something of a criminal nature in order to do that. Now you meet a bad guy like this. The police department has a rule, and the rule is 100.49, and that word is courteous. All officers shall be tactful in the performance of their duties. How many of you know that officer can't curse you? Did anybody know that? Now you may have heard that, but an officer has to be as respectful to you as you are to him or her. But if you're disrespectful, again, we're back to you just took it to the next level, so the officer has to take it one step a little higher. But there are certain things that the officer can and cannot do to you. And one thing is being disrespectful, cursing you. But you have to be on that same level. You can't be disrespectful and you can't curse him either. This is an old rapper, probably a little bit before your time. You probably don't even listen to him anymore. But can anybody tell me who this rapper is? That's amazing. Do you not know it? You're just not telling me.
You know this one right here.
Okay, young man. Huh? Who is he? Who is the rapper? What did he say? Do anybody know who this rapper is? Oh, okay. Let me tell you who this rapper is. And I picked this guy because he has a statement in it. He's an older rapper, Too Short. Too Short is an older rapper. But I put him up because he has a message in his music. Listen to a quote that Too Short has. Too Short said, when you're ignorant, you get treated that way. And when they throw you in jail, you got nothing to say. So if you don't listen, it's not my fault. I'll be getting paid and you'll be paying the cost. Now let's look at this word, ignorant. Ignorant sounds like a dirty word. You wouldn't walk around calling a person ignorant. But when you use ignorance, the definition of it is just a state of being uninformed, lack of knowledge. And I'm saying today that knowledge is power. So if you don't have this knowledge, then I'm not calling you ignorant, but that is the word that defines you not being knowledgeable of a certain situation. So you go out and you start being ignorant to situation, you be just like this guy. They'll be playing your face in the car. You've seen that, and we always want to look at police officers as the bad guy until we need them. Then all of a sudden they become the good guy. But they're good guys at all times. Do any of you in here know any police officers on a personal basis? Okay, you put your hand up first. What's that officer's name that you know?
Sergeant Tremere.
Sergeant Tremere. That's Shreveport? Any of you know any Shreveport police? Hold on, let me. Where? Okay. Is he to your opinion, is he a good police officer? He's not a good police officer? Okay. How about you, sir? Sergeant?
Let's go.
Is he a good police officer to you or a bad police officer? Good police officer. Love it? Is Lovey a good police officer? Is he good because he has big arms? Okay. Yes, sir. Vanessa, little short, black, Davis, good police officer, bad police officer.
No.
Okay, so listen. Now, if I poll him, let me say this. If I poll him, the officers that's going to be bad officers, they're going to be bad because of a situation that you know of, and it made you sort of prejudiced behind them. When I grew up on the Cooper Road, at your age, I grew up on the corner of Kelsey and Northside. I went to Northside Elementary, I went to Lanier, it was a junior high school, I went to Green Oaks. I ran from the police like everybody else. I thought all police officers were were bad. I didn't want to have any dealings with police officers, and I based all of that on people telling me about police officers and what I've seen in the past in reference to police officers. Unless it's your relative, that's the way you would think. Until you need them, that's the way you will think. But police officers are just like everybody else. They have problems like everybody else. They have families like everybody else. But they're all good people, whether you want to believe that or not. But if you're on the wrong side of the law, their job is to handle their business. And when you see that, yeah, you would say they're bad. But I wouldn't say they're bad because law enforcement has been good to me. 31 and a half years I've been in law enforcement. And I said this to the earlier group. If you don't have an idea of what you want to be in life at this age, where you are now, you need to be thinking about it, because before you know it, you're 12 and 13, you put 10 years on that, that'll put you at 22, 23. Hopefully by then, you will be out of your parents' house. If you're still home at 22 years old and you're not in college, something is wrong. But you should be coming out of college at that. But you need to be thinking about what you want to be. And then you need to be realistic in your thinking. Anybody here want to be a rapper? Anybody here want to be a ball player? Basketball, football, professional. Now, okay, that's fine. And I'm not going to hold you, but if you're not taking any kind of courses to get through high school, to get to college, it's going to be highly unlikely that you're going to be in the pros, because you're going to have some kind of knowledge as to how you're going to spend all this money you're making. Other than that, you have an agent, and your agent will take all of your money. Again, say it with me. If we learn nothing else today, we will learn those 3 words. Knowledge is power. When interacting with law enforcement, you always want to keep your hands where the officer can see them, and you never, ever want to touch a police officer. Can anybody tell me why you want to keep, I see your hand. First question is, and I'm going to let somebody else answer, why you don't ever want to touch a police officer. Speak loudly so everybody can hear you. Why do you want to keep your hands where the officer can see you?
Because they get them right there.
Okay. Do anybody want to answer why you never, ever want to touch a police officer?
So a lot of someone think that you're trying to hurt them.
That's it. Because you really don't want anybody touching you. So the police officer there, he is an authoritative figure. If I was an officer in uniform, you were standing on the corner, minding your business, talking to your homeboys, your homegirls, and I walked up to you. Stand up, little lady, if you don't mind. Do you mind? You don't mind? Okay, we're going to use her. You stand up with her. You look like you kind of sleep, so I'm going to wake you up. Put your coat right there. We're going to demonstrate this. Y'all turn to each other, just pretend like you're talking. And keep your hands in your pocket. Not you. You keep your hands out of your pocket. I'm a police officer. You're minding your business. I walk up to you. I'm in uniform. You have your hands in your pocket. I walk up to you. You're not bothering anybody. I walk up to you with my hand on my gun because you have your hands in your pocket. Then I pull my gun on you. Are you okay with that? Why? Why are you not okay with that? But you have your hands in your pocket. You're making me nervous, right? So I'm making you nervous, and it offends you. Thank you, ladies. Have a seat. With your hands in your pocket, you can have anything in your pocket. The officer don't know that. Officers are trained to look at you and determine if you are what is perceived as a threat. His hand on his gun, you perceive that as a threat to you. If you walk up and pull it out, it's really a threat, and you become offended. But then you say to him in a polite manner, "Officer, why did you do that to me?" Politely, that officer will answer, but if you keep your hands in your pocket, elevate your voice, same statement. "Officer, why did you do that to me?" Well, now you are becoming aggressive. Yay or nay? You have become aggressive. So the officer has to take it to the next level. So these are things you do not want to do. Always be polite. Always be in control of the situation. You are in control, but you have to have knowledge of the subject matter or you would lose it every time. It is written, and believe it or not, law enforcement is ordained. Law enforcement is put there for a reason, to protect you. And if you don't believe that, why do you think police officers are called when people are fighting? Well, they're not called because they want to come. They're called because somebody feels that there needs to be somebody on the scene present to control the situation. So they are the governing authorities. They have the right to protect you. And believe it or not, when I was out on the street, a lot of times I was called to disturbance. It's amazing where people didn't care nothing about me, but on a daily basis, I put my life on the line to where I would die for people that I didn't know. But that is the oath you take. That is the oath you take. And I'm going to instill this in you. If you don't know what you want to be in life, it may not be a police officer. It may be a fireman, a doctor, a lawyer, a ball player. Not saying that you cannot do it, but what are you working at to get to that level? And if you're doing nothing and you're not getting your homework, you're not applying yourself, you're playing with your video games every day, it's not going to work. I've been where you're sitting. I've been in the same room. I've been your age. And I wish I would have had somebody to come and talk to me, to tell me how it was going to be once I got older. I wish. But I didn't have that. I didn't have that. You want to know. See, that's a good-looking police car. That is a good-looking police car. That's not a good-looking police right there, but you want to be in that car and drive around. And I'm not trying to have you concentrate on being a police officer, but it is a rewarding career. And once you get older, you're going to have something that's going to pay the bills. Have you thought about that? Right now, mom and dad are paying the bills. They buy you the Jordans. Speaking of Jordans, they buy you the Jordans. What Jordans cost now? Anybody know what a new pair of Jordans is running? How much? That's how much a new pair costs? Wow. Well, I don't own any Jordans. It's not that I can't afford them. I just can't see myself spending that much money on a pair of tennis shoes to walk around in. But if that's your thing, and you have that money, but once you get older and your children start going, well, I guess by then Jordans will be around. You're gonna have to be providing for your children. Right here, officers conduct 3 types of stops, and here's what will be very important if you're standing around, because as sure as you live, one day you're gonna encounter an officer, whether you're driving. Anybody in here driving without a license yet? Yeah. Okay, that's good. And like I said, I'm fine. I drove up here in my truck, so you don't have to worry about me. But once you start driving legally, most likely you're going to get stopped. You're going to have an encounter with a law enforcement officer. And I wish, if nothing else, you hear what I'm saying, because knowledge is power. And if you don't know, I use that word ignorance. It sounds dirty, but your lack of knowledge will control the outcome of the situation if you're knowledgeable. So I'm going to keep this one if you're driving along, especially you back there, young man, driving without the driver's license. You can still control the outcome if you're stopped, because your attitude is going to determine your altitude as to how far this situation go out of control. When I was out there, I stopped a lot of young people driving without a driver's license. I could have put handcuffs on them, impounded the car, and took them to jail. But I figured I'm going to take them to the house and see how the parents handle this. But it was based on their attitude when I stopped them. They didn't get out the car with the attitude as to, why are you stopping me? They already knew why I was stopping them. I'm stopping you because you violated, you ran that red light, you saw me, and then you realized you didn't have a driver's license, but that's your conscience now. So you want to drive right. time when you appear trying to drive right, you're gonna do something wrong. But listen to this. I'm gonna give you 3 types of stops that a police officer conduct. If you're ever stopped, if you ever have an encounter with a police officer, you're gonna fall under one of these categories. And if you know how to conduct yourself, you can control the outcome of the situation. The first one is what we call a casual stop. 2 ladies standing up, I walk up and I ask them, it's an inviting conversation. How are y'all doing today? They have an option. They can either talk to me or they can walk off. They don't have to stand there and listen to me because it's a casual encounter. You're not being detained, and if you're not sure, you can always ask the question, officer, am I being detained? Officer, am I under arrest? And if they say no, you're free to leave. That's a casual encounter. You have a detention. If you're out, like my little man back there, with no driver's license, on your motorcycle, now that little fella gonna get a ticket. Evidently, he's driving. Only thing I see wrong with this situation, because he has training wheels on his motorcycle, but he does not have a helmet on. That's the only thing I see wrong with this conversation. But a detention stop is where an officer has reasonable suspicion. Listen, reasonable suspicion. That is defined as the officer suspect the person has been, is, or about to engage in some type of criminal activity, about to do something wrong. The officer can conduct what is called a Terry stop, where the officer, if he feels like you are strapped, he can pat you down. God forbid if you are strapped, then it becomes illegal. Now you don't have a helmet on and you carry a weapon. But at the detention with reasonable suspicion, you can still question the officer in a respectable, calm manner, asking that officer, why am I being stopped? Why am I being detained? And the volume, tone in your voice can determine whether the situation gets elevated. If I talk to you like this, I take it down a little bit, you tend to see how you're looking at me, because you want to know what I'm saying. But if I pick it up like this, it's the tone of the voice. It controls the situation. See, my tone controls the situation. Just the tone. Just the tone. That's the second one. I like that. The third one is the arrest. The arrest is when the officer has probable cause to believe that you have committed a crime. Now you're going to jail. The PC is the reasonable ground that the accused person may be, and I say may be, because a lot of times you get hooked up and you could be the wrong person. I put out the description that the person is wearing a red and white, is that a jacket you have on your way? Jacket with the number 23. And I don't realize that 2, 3 people have it. Well, I'm going to hook her up first. That's because she's wearing the jacket that I have a description of. But that don't mean that she's the actual person. That will be determined later, but it's not going to stop you from going to jail right now because I believe that. And here's the thing a lot of people don't understand when they get a criminal record. That's why when I talk to younger people under the age of 16, I said be careful when you do things wrong. Because at age 16 and below, you're considered a juvenile. And you're having what they call a juvenile record. A juvenile record. That juvenile record is sealed once you become 17. But there are certain crimes you can do as a juvenile, and they will charge you as an adult. But I'm going to take it to the next level. You're 17 and above, and you start getting arrested. A criminal record is just one more barrier that successfully keeps you from gaining housing and a job. When you go to fill out an application and watch this, it's getting more technical now. You used to go in and fill out a paper application, and you know, it's not like that anymore. You fill out applications on a computer. When I was interviewing people to become police officers, you have to even know how to appear at an interview. You can't come to an interview with a gold grill sagging and then tell me you want to be a police officer. I have no problem with a person with a gold grill. But if you're gonna, and I'm gonna use incorrect grammar so you can get it. If you're gonna show up at an interview, at least take the grill out. Most of them come out. Am I correct? Most of the grills that are all the way across with the name, they come out. I mean, you get a grill with your name on it at the top and the bottom, and it's permanent in your mouth. Wow. Okay. Well, how much they cost? I don't know one, but how much it cost? $300. That will not work. Listen, that will not work. Showing up at an interview with a grill, sagging, at least be presentable. And these are things that it's a fact of life. You're going to get older, you're going to have responsibility, but if you get that criminal record, that is going to be something that's going to hinder you from getting a house. It's going to hinder you from getting employment, because one of the questions on an application is, have you ever been convicted of a felony? They're changing it now to, have you ever been arrested? There's a difference between being arrested and having a felony arrest. So you want to think about that when you turn 17, because it's going to determine where you go in life. But if you know and understand your rights, we all have computers, it's out there, type it in, know your rights, you can determine the outcome of any situation. I want to recap, so you don't end up like this or like that. Do anybody know anybody that's been in that position?
What is that? I can't see him.
He's sitting on the curb with his hands behind his head with a police officer with his hand on his gun. This one right here, he's kind of eating the little hood, and that female police officer. You see, young ladies, what you can look like in that uniform? All police officers not bad. You could be a female and a uniform, but you don't want to end up in that position. So if you ever have an encounter with a police officer, the first thing you want to do is be polite. Be polite. You want to stay calm. Knowledge is power, so you want to ask questions in a respectable manner so you can get an understanding of what's going on. Why you stop me, officer? Why you knocking on my door, officer? Why you putting me in handcuffs, officer? Why you have me down in the mud, face down, officer? Ask questions. Keep your hands where the officer can see them. Never ever touch a police officer. He takes that as an act of aggression. Get as much information as possible in the event you feel like you have been wronged or anybody that's around you have been wronged. And last and foremost, remember this. Remember this. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. This will conclude my presentation. At this time, I'll take any questions. Anybody have any statements? Anybody want to tell me about anything that you have seen in the form of law enforcement officers where you feel like it was not necessary what you saw and what was being done? Okay, this will conclude my presentation.